Hello again, and welcome to our review of Turning Point Fall of Liberty for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Turning Point has probably become best known for having probably the worst demo that has appeared on the Xbox 360 marketplace. When that demo was released a few weeks ago, it was pretty much, especially on message boards, touted as probably the worst thing that most people have ever played. And I want to let you know that the developers have put in some effort to fixing the problems that plagued the demo, although the final release isn't really that much better. Now, as far as the background story goes, Turning Point Fall of Liberty is basically a game that involves you, kind of a average Joe protagonist, taking on Nazis that invade New York City. And you're probably wondering how these Nazis invaded New York City when, there was no such an invasion in history. And that's where the game kind of takes a detour from normal history and proposes a kind of a what if. What if Winston Churchill had died and his wisdom hadn't, imparted itself on the world, and basically the Nazis took over Europe and just moved on to taking over America. And although this is a somewhat interesting idea for a video game, Turning Point doesn't really do it justice. Turning Point is more of a game that seems created just to be profitable in a weird way, because I can just picture what the developers were doing when they were thinking of this game. They're thinking, World War II has sold a lot of video games, and we want to make a World War II video game, but we also want to, distinguish ourselves as being different. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, oh, what if the Nazis invaded the United States? Which is an interesting idea. But then what we're going to do, instead of, taking time to make it a really good video game, is we're going to make this really cheap video game and just kind of, go on the fact that it's a World War II game. People are going to buy it, and, people love to shoot Nazis, so they're going to buy our game. And as far as comparing this game to other games of the genre, I would say the best way to compare it is to say that it's pretty much like a D-list Call of Duty game. I mean, you have the similar weapons, you're fighting Nazis, you're in the United States instead of Europe, but that's not really that big of a deal. And it's just, it seems a very cheap game. When you pick it up, the character models are pretty poorly made. I mean, the game uses the Unreal Engine, and this is probably the first game that I've seen that really doesn't take advantage of it. You're kind of wondering why they even bothered to buy the Unreal Engine for this. And in fact, it makes me realize that games using the Unreal Engine can actually look pretty bad. And on top of all that, the game is very linear. You have a series of missions you have to do, but everything is pretty straightforward. You have these kind of dorky little puzzles that you have to do, like twist valves and open other things, and it's all pretty straightforward. And this game also makes you realize how much the Nazis love blimps. There's a lot of blimps in this game. You're going to be fighting a lot of blimps, taking them down with rocket launchers, which is kind of cool at first, but at the same sense, it's kind of geeky and just kind of goofy. Kind of pretty much sums up the whole experience of this game. Now, if there's one thing this game does bring to the table that might be a redeeming factor, is the fact that it introduces this kind of third-person grapple technique, which I think you've seen in the gameplay footage so far. Basically, when you get in melee range, instead of, punching the guy, you can basically grapple with him and either use him as a human shield or you do an instant environmental kill. And that's actually pretty cool, and that's something I'd like to see in other games of this genre. Now, just to show you how goofy this game is, if you notice right here, the tank just drove away and its wheels aren't moving. And I think that kind of sums up the overall experience of this game. It's a very cheaply made game. You can tell it was rushed. They just want to get it out there. Not going to spend a lot of time on the details. Now, this game does have an online component like most games, and it's basically just either team deathmatch or regular deathmatch. And you can tell it's very tacked on. I mean, there wasn't a lot of thought put into this. It was just like, okay, we need to have some sort of an online multiplayer because every other game has it. So we're going to put this on there, and there you go. And first of all, I had a really hard time finding any games. And when I did find a game to get into, it was either I got booted right away or it was just a lag fest. And especially here, you can see it's just jerking around, and it's pretty much unplayable. I really don't understand why there was anyone else on there, considering there's so many other games that are available. I assume they're just trying to get some sort of achievement out of it, but I can't see any other reason to play the game online. So, bottom line for Turning Point Fall of Liberty is that I give it a 55 out of 100. It's a cheaply made game that you can tell will be in the bargain bins in a couple weeks. If you want to learn more about this game or other games, please click the link to the right of the description and visit Video Game Central. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.